What if I told you that everything you know about learning is wrong? That the struggles you face when trying to master new skills aren't because you're not smart enough, but because no one ever taught you how to learn? Imagine being able to read a book in half the time while remembering twice as much. Picture mastering skills in weeks that normally take months. What would that do for your career, your confidence, your life? Stay with me, and I promise you'll never approach learning the same way again. Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to learn something new? Maybe you've told yourself, I'm just not good at math, or I can't learn languages, or I'm too old to pick up new skills. What if I told you that learning isn't about intelligence, it's about method? But here's the thing that might shock you. Our education system has completely failed to teach us how to learn. We spend years in school being told what to learn, but almost zero time learning how to learn efficiently. What's the invisible force that determines your learning ability before you even open a book or start a course? It's the stories you tell yourself about learning. And these stories might be sabotaging you without you even realizing it. According to Jim Kwik, the first and most crucial step is eliminating limiting beliefs. When you say, I have a terrible memory or I'm a slow learner, your brain accepts these as commands and operates accordingly. Studies at Stanford University have shown that simply believing your brain can grow, what psychologists call a growth mindset, physically changes how your neurons connect when learning. And how can we do it? So, your first action step is this. Replace. I can't learn this with I haven't learned this yet. Replace. This is too hard. With this requires effort, which builds my brain. Then your brain is literally waiting for your permission to unlock its potential. It's not fixed, it's incredibly plastic and adaptable. Some of the world's top memory champions started with average memories but transformed them through practice and the right mindset. And ask yourself, what limiting belief about your learning ability can you challenge right now? What if I told you that your ability to learn isn't determined by how hard you study, but by what's happening in your body when you sit down to learn? The second step in our protocol is something most learners completely overlook: optimizing your brain state. Here's the secret that changed everything for me. Your brain can't operate at maximum capacity when you're stressed, tired, or distracted. But the reverse is also true. When you intentionally create the optimal brain state, learning becomes almost effortless. But what's the process experts use to get into this state? So Jim Kwik recommends a simple 3-part practice before any learning session. First, take 3 deep breaths, inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 8. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response that optimizes brain function. Second, drink a full glass of water. Even mild dehydration reduces cognitive performance by up to 30%. Third, change your posture to what Kwik calls a ready state, sitting upright with shoulders back and feet flat on the floor. Research from Columbia University shows this posture increases testosterone and decreases cortisol, improving learning performance by up to 20%. Try it right now. Feel the difference? This isn't just about comfort. It's about creating a physiological state where your brain can absorb information like a sponge. And what separates the average learner from someone who absorbs information at lightning speed? It's not intelligence. It's not even dedication. It's their approach to the learning process itself. Step 3 in our protocol is mastering active versus passive learning. Most people consume information passively, reading without engagement, watching videos without participation, listening without response. But here's the game changer. Studies at Carnegie Mellon University discovered that students who used active learning techniques retained up to 90% more information than passive learners. Active learning means asking questions as you consume information. It means explaining concepts out loud as if teaching someone else. It means challenging information rather than accepting it. And how can we do it? So try this radical approach. For every 5 minutes you spend consuming information, spend 1 minute reflecting on it. Ask yourself, how does this connect to what I already know? What questions do I still have? How would I explain this to a 10-year-old? Then the secret weapon here is something Jim Kwik calls learning loops. The practice of continually circling back to information with different perspectives and questions, creating multiple neural pathways to the same knowledge. And your brain isn't designed to absorb information in one continuous stream. It needs these processing intervals to transform information into lasting knowledge. What if you could transform your mind into a storage system so powerful you could recall hundreds of items in perfect sequence after seeing them just once? This isn't science fiction. It's a technique dating back to ancient Greece that's still used by every top memory competitor in the world today. Step 4 in our protocol is building your first memory palace. This spatial memory technique leverages your brain's exceptional ability to remember places and locations, but how it works. So visualize a familiar place like your home. Create a specific path through this space. Then place vivid, unusual images representing what you want to remember at specific locations along this path. To recall the information, you simply walk through your palace, encountering each bizarre image along the way. And what makes this technique so powerful? Your brain evolved to remember spaces and unusual visual events as a survival mechanism. So by connecting abstract information to these strong neural pathways, you're essentially piggybacking on your brain's natural strengths. Then memory champion Joshua Furr used this technique to memorize the order of an entire deck of cards in under 2 minutes after just 1 year of practice. And studies at Radboud University found that students using memory palaces scored 50% higher on tests than control groups. The best part? This technique works for any type of information, from language vocabulary to scientific concepts to presentations. What if the secret to learning faster isn't studying more hours, but studying in a completely different way? This might be hard to believe, but research from the University of Illinois found that our brains aren't designed for marathon study sessions. In fact, focusing intensely for too long actually decreases performance. Step 5 in our protocol introduces strategic time blocking using the Pomodoro technique. This approach revolutionizes how you structure learning sessions. And how can we do it? So here's the framework. Study with complete focus for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. After 4 cycles, take a longer 15 to 30-minute break. But there's a critical twist Jim Kwik adds that most people miss. During those 25-minute sessions, you must eliminate all distractions. That means no phone, no notifications, no multitasking. Research from the University of California found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after an interruption. And even more fascinating, neuroscientists at Microsoft Research discovered that those short breaks between sessions aren't just for rest. They're when your brain consolidates information into long-term memory. I challenge you to try this approach for just 1 day. Set a timer, focus completely for 25 minutes, then take that break. The results might shock you. What if the foods you ate yesterday are determining how well your brain functions today? Most learning techniques focus on mental strategies, but step 6 in our protocol addresses something more fundamental: brain optimizing nutrition. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. It's an energy-hungry organ that requires specific nutrients to function at its peak. Jim Kwik recommends what he calls brain foods that have been scientifically proven to enhance cognitive function. Wild-caught fatty fish like salmon, which contains omega-3 fatty acids that build brain cell membranes. Blueberries, which have been shown to delay brain aging and improve memory through their antioxidant properties. Turmeric with black pepper, which reduces inflammation and may boost BDNF, a protein that encourages the growth of new neurons. Dark chocolate, 85% or higher cacao, which improves blood flow to the brain and contains stimulants that enhance focus. But here's what might surprise you even more. It's not just about what you eat, but when you eat it. Research from Yale University shows that learning performance drops significantly during post-meal blood sugar crashes. Eating smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day, focusing on low glycemic foods that provide steady energy rather than spikes and crashes. The right nutrition isn't just supplemental to good learning, it's foundational. What if I told you that the most powerful learning hack happens when you're not conscious at all? Step 7 in our protocol might be the most counterintuitive yet. Prioritizing sleep for learning acceleration. Here's the fascinating science. During deep sleep, your brain moves information from short-term to long-term memory in a process called consolidation. Skip this step, and much of what you've studied simply vanishes. A groundbreaking study at Harvard Medical School found that participants who slept after learning showed a 20 to 40% boost in memory performance compared to those who stayed awake. But Jim Kwik takes this a step further with a technique called sleep learning programming. And how can we do it? So, just before bed, review the most important information you're trying to learn. Your brain will prioritize this information during sleep consolidation. Then, keep a notepad by your bed. Many people report waking with new insights as their brain processes during the night. And even more remarkable research from the University of Lübeck in Germany discovered that presenting subtle cues related to previously learned material during deep sleep without waking the person enhanced memory retention by up to 30%. This means the 8 hours you spend sleeping aren't lost learning time. They're potentially your most valuable learning hours if you set up your brain correctly before bed. Why do some people remember information instantly while others struggle after repeated exposure? The 8th step in our protocol exploits a fundamental truth about how your brain encodes information multisensory learning. Most educational approaches rely heavily on just one or two senses, usually sight and hearing, but neuroscience research from the University of Manchester shows that engaging multiple senses simultaneously creates redundant memory pathways, dramatically improving recall. And how to implement this approach? So when learning new material, don't just read it aloud. Don't just listen to a lecture, take handwritten notes. Don't just memorize facts. Create physical movements that represent key concepts. Then, the more senses you engage, the more neural networks encode the information, creating what scientists call compensatory processing. When one memory pathway fails, others remain intact. Jim Kwik shares a particularly powerful technique, the teach it method. Explaining a concept out loud as if teaching it to someone else engages your visual, auditory and kinesthetic systems simultaneously while forcing your brain to organize information logically. And studies show that students who use this method score up to 70% higher on tests than those who simply reread material. Remember, your brain isn't designed to learn through just one channel. It's a multisensory organ that performs best when all systems are engaged. What if the timing of your review sessions is more important than their duration? Step 9 introduces a learning algorithm so powerful it can reduce study time by up to 50% while improving retention-spaced repetition systems. Most people review information haphazardly or cram before tests. But research from the University of California has identified specific intervals for review that maximize retention while minimizing time spent. Here's the optimized schedule Jim Kwik recommends. First review, 24 hours after learning. Second review, 3 days after learning. Third review, 7 days after learning. Fourth review, 21 days after learning. And what makes this approach so effective? So, it exploits what psychologists call the spacing effect, the phenomenon where information is better retained when learning is spread out over time rather than concentrated in a single session. Then even more fascinating is how this works neurologically. Each time you review information just as you're about to forget it, the memory becomes stronger and more accessible, what scientists call memory reconsolidation. And digital tools like Anki and Remnote automate this process, testing you on information at precisely the right intervals based on how well you remember each item. Implementing this one technique alone has helped medical students memorize thousands of complex terms and concepts in record time. Do you know what's the invisible thief that's stealing 50% of your learning potential right now? In our hyper-connected world, distraction isn't just an occasional nuisance, it's a constant state that's rewiring our brains for scattered attention. Step 10 in our protocol is implementing what Jim Kwik calls the focus formula, a system for eliminating distractions and training sustained attention. So, here's the three-part approach. First, environment engineering. Remove all potential distractions from your learning space. Research from Princeton University shows that visual clutter alone reduces cognitive performance by up to 30%. Second, digital detox. Use apps like Freedom or Forest to block distracting websites and apps during learning sessions. A study from the University of London found that even the presence of a smartphone, even when turned off, reduced cognitive capacity. Third, attention training. Practice meditation for just 10 minutes daily. Harvard researchers discovered that 8 weeks of meditation actually increases grey matter in areas of the brain associated with learning and memory. But here's the most crucial insight. Focus isn't just about eliminating distractions, it's about training the ability to return to task when distraction occurs. Jim Kwik recommends the one-page, 1-hour challenge, reading a single page of difficult material for 1 hour, noticing when your mind wanders, and gently returning focus to the text. This practice strengthens the prefrontal cortex, enhancing your ability to maintain focus during future learning sessions. Why do some people stay committed to learning while others quit at the first obstacle? Our 11th step addresses the emotional engine that powers all learning: intrinsic motivation. According to Jim Kwik, sustainable learning isn't fueled by external rewards or pressure. It's driven by connecting to your deeper why. So try this powerful exercise. Take a sheet of paper and write down 50 reasons why mastering the subject you're learning matters to you. Don't stop until you reach 50, even if it gets difficult. And what makes this exercise so transformative? Neuroscience research from the University of Michigan shows that connecting learning to personal meaning activates the brain's reward circuitry, releasing dopamine that strengthens neural connections associated with the material. But what's another dimension to motivation that most people miss? Learning is inherently difficult, and your brain naturally resists effort. And what's the solution? So, create what psychologists call implementation intentions, specific plans for when you'll encounter obstacles. Then complete this sentence. When I feel like quitting, I will. This pre-commitment bypasses the decision fatigue that often leads to abandoned learning projects. And what's the difference between those who transform their lives through learning and those who remain stuck? Our final step is perhaps the simplest, yet most powerful daily consistent practice. Jim Kwik often says, it's not what you do once in a while that shapes your brain, it's what you do consistently. Research from University College London found that it takes an average of 66 days for a new behaviour to become automatic. This means implementing these techniques must become a daily commitment, not just an occasional effort. And how can we do it? So here's the practical approach. Choose just one technique from this video to implement tomorrow. Master it before adding another. Small, consistent changes compound over time. Then, the most successful learners aren't those with the highest IQs or the most expensive courses. They're those who show up day after day, implementing proven techniques with consistency. As Jim Kwik says, knowledge isn't power, it's potential power. It only becomes power when we apply it. You now have the 12-step protocol used by the world's top learners to double their learning speed. These aren't just theories. They're proven techniques backed by neuroscience and used by experts like Jim Kwik to transform ordinary learners into extraordinary ones. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. So here's my challenge to you. Choose just one of these techniques and commit to implementing it for the next 7 days. Then come back and share your results in the comments. If this video helped you, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to unlock their learning potential. And remember, your brain is the most powerful technology on the planet. It's time to learn how to use it. Subscribe for more evidence-based strategies to unlock your potential and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video on accelerated learning techniques. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and remember, your potential is limitless.